In the world of addiction recovery, the people saving lives on the front lines have often survived the system themselves. They go from being the people receiving help to the ones facilitating it. They transition into volunteers, then into ambassadors, eventually becoming full-time staff members who manage the very services they once relied on. But this specific work exacts a heavy emotional cost. Imagine walking into a simple morning coffee group and instantly getting swarmed by a dozen people, every single one of them demanding your immediate attention and refusing to wait their turn. That intense demand for exclusivity bleeds into daily communication. Beneficiaries will frequently ignore community rules, bypassing group chats to insist on direct, one-on-one time with the workers to solve basic issues. Compound that emotional weight with administrative bureaucracy. To legally operate in these support roles, people have to clear layers of mandatory paperwork and stringent background checks. Take the case of a woman trying to volunteer after escaping an abusive situation. She spent time living in a safe house, and now she needs to pass a standard background check to start working and moving forward with her life. Because her safe house address is legally protected, it doesn't show up in the security database. Her application completely stalls. Meanwhile, the support worker handles the fallout, spending weeks quietly fighting the system on the woman's behalf, trying to fix the error behind the scenes without stressing her out. Burnout in this sector is driven by a specific psychological reflex, the tendency for empathetic people to try and absorb the emotional weight of everyone around them, taking on battles that aren't actually theirs to fight. Psychologists use a framework called transactional analysis to map out how humans subconsciously interact with each other. This model breaks human communication down into three primary psychological states: the parent, the adult, and the child. Recovery workers gravitate toward the nurturing parent state. They want to soothe anxiety, fix problems, and protect the vulnerable people in their care. On the other end, people fresh out of deep trauma often operate in the child state. They are driven by a need for instant gratification, high dependency, and a desire to be seen and taken care of immediately. When the nurturing parent constantly caters to the child, the two states lock together. The adult layer is bypassed completely. This alignment feels exactly like empathy. You are helping someone who needs help. Psychologically, though, it creates a rigid loop of dependency that ends up harming both parties. We see this dynamic in action with the stalled background check. The worker defaults to the parent role by trying to quietly fix the administrative roadblock. By doing all the heavy lifting, the worker plays the rescuer. They absorb the entire bureaucratic headache and intentionally keep the beneficiary in the dark to shield them from bad news. The same pattern appears with communication boundaries. When a beneficiary refuses to use community channels, the worker gives in to the child state's demand for private messages, trying to keep them engaged at any cost. The cumulative weight of these unmanaged crises settles on the worker. By the end of the day, they carry the anxiety of 20 different people, and by constantly playing the rescuer, the worker inadvertently guarantees that the person in recovery never learns how to navigate challenges on their own. The beneficiary stays completely dependent. To break this cycle, the worker must step out of the parent role and anchor themselves in the practical adult state. This serves a vital purpose, forcing the beneficiary to rise out of the child state and meet the worker as an equal. Applied to the background check, the adult approach means pulling back the curtain. The worker explains the bureaucratic wall clearly and then asks the volunteer to find their own postal records to help solve the issue. For the communication issues, the adult response means firmly enforcing community rules. Instead of managing a dozen private chats, the worker delegates responsibility, perhaps appointing an ambassador from the group to manage social media updates. Holding these boundaries is deeply uncomfortable for someone whose first instinct is to soothe and save the person standing right in front of them. In a system weighed down by trauma and red tape, doing everything for someone isn't actually helping them. True empathy is setting a firm boundary that protects the worker's sanity, while finally giving the recovering individual the space to rescue themselves.